Did Judge Faith Jenkins really marry a man the internet had been side-eyeing for years? Because when even Wendy Williams is shading your wedding and your ex-wife is hinting that you might be living on the down low, people are definitely going to start talking. And let's be real, Kenny Lattimore's reputation hasn't exactly been drama-free. From a messy divorce to custody battles, constant whispers about his sexuality, and now a baby with a woman who wrote a relationship book after just 1 year of marriage, the cracks are starting to show in this perfect picture. Here's the hot take. Judge Faith might have traded her gavel for a love story fueled more by public pressure than true connection. And Kenny, he might just be the R&B crooner trying to clean up his image with a new last name by his side. But the real question is it genuine love? Or a perfectly tailored distraction hiding everything they don't want us to see? When Kenny Lattimore and Judge Faith Jenkins first went public, it wasn't just applause, it was a full-blown celebration. Here was an Ivy League-educated lawyer turned TV judge linking up with an R&B gentleman known for his smooth ballads and squeaky clean image. It felt like the grown folks' version of a fairy tale. Black love, gospel roots, abstinence until marriage. Even Hollywood's relationship pastors Devin Franklin and Meagan Good were co-signing them. It felt like a love story Oprah's book club and Essence magazine would have written together. They weren't just dating, they were branding themselves as the blueprint for modern love. Faith even put together a relationship board of directors, basically a panel of married friends giving advice like they were launching a tech company. They marketed the wait like it was the secret formula for everlasting happiness. And when Kenny proposed in Central Park with that golden hour sunlight and matching tailored suits, social media lost its mind. But here's the thing, when a couple spends that much energy proving their love to the world, it's usually because something behind the scenes isn't adding up. Let's be honest, Faith was over 40 and unemployed at the time. Kenny was still dealing with the lingering mess from his past. Their perfect love story rollout started looking less like fate and more like image control. Because no matter how polished everything seemed, Kenny and Faith's relationship came with heavy baggage. And it didn't take long for the red flags to pop up like paparazzi. It all starts with Kenny's first marriage. Before he was Mr. Jenkins, Kenny Lattimore already had his fair share of personal struggles and public gossip. Now, we're not going to drag out some sad childhood tale, but just know that Kenny went through something traumatic at 5 years old, something he didn't talk about for decades. When he finally shared it on Unsung, it made sense why he struggled with intimacy, physical touch, and relationships. Enter Chant Moore, singer, star, and Kenny's first wife. They had a whirlwind romance, 5-hour phone calls, love duets, all of it seemed perfect, until it wasn't. Chant filed for divorce in 2011 after nearly 10 years together. And even though Kenny kept it classy in public, behind the scenes things got ugly, accusations flew, and they fought over custody of their son. But here's where it really gets juicy. On an episode of R&B Divas, hosted by Wendy Williams no less, Wendy asked Chant point-blank if Kenny was gay. And instead of shutting it down, Chant gave one of the most suspicious non-answers ever. "That's not for me to say. He's not my husband anymore. Girl, what?" That one line blew the doors wide open. Rumors that Kenny had been trying to outrun for years were suddenly front and center. Blogs, fans, even fellow artists were whispering. Lil Mo even said, "Look, people call everybody gay nowadays, but I ain't never seen him with a man." Kenny was furious. He said Chanty's comments were reckless, harmful to their son, and completely unnecessary. But the damage was done. And for someone with such a clean image, Kenny's reputation took a hit, one he never fully recovered from. So what did he do? He tried to lay low, rebuild quietly, and maybe, just maybe, find someone who could help him get that squeaky clean stamp back. Enter Judge Faith Jenkins. Now let's be real, Faith was tired of waiting on Mr. Right, smart, successful, beautiful, in her 40s. But every family event came with side eyes and the dreaded "when are you getting married?" She even admitted in her book, "Sis, don't settle, yes. We'll get to that mess later," that the pressure was real. So real that it pushed her into all the wrong relationships just to avoid judgment. After another disappointing breakup, Faith made a list, not 5 things, not 10, but 50 traits she wanted in a man. She was manifesting, praying, maybe lighting a little sage. Then her friend, gospel producer Erin Lindsay, played matchmaker and said, "Hey, I know this R&B singer you should meet. His name's Kenny Lattimore." Yes, that Kenny, the one still fighting old rumors and trying to rebrand. At the time, Faith had no job, no show, and no clue what was next career-wise. So nerves were high going into that first lunch date. She even admitted there were no sparks at first, and thought Kenny wasn't into her either because she wasn't throwing flirtatious vibes. But after 2 hours of conversation, she was hooked. Kenny was kind, humble, smart. He checked 49 out of 50 boxes. The only thing missing, height. Faith wanted 6'0". Kenny was 5 feet 10, but when the biological clock is ticking, 2 inches isn't a deal breaker. Still, instead of landing a fellow lawyer or businessman, Faith found herself with a touring R&B artist carrying a lot of baggage. And with both of them needing a win, her for love, him for image, things moved fast. Maybe too fast. They weren't just dating. They were strategic. No sex before marriage. Not just a personal choice, it was a campaign. They followed the Wait, that book by Devin Franklin and Megan Good, like a manual. The same Devin and Megan whose marriage later crumbled, by the way. Faith and Kenny even built a relationship board of directors. Yes, a team of married couples advising them like it was a corporate startup. Everything they did screamed by the book: mentorship, prayer circles, abstinence, boundaries, pre-engagement counseling. No red wine before the 3rd date. It was squeaky clean to squeaky. And when couples work that hard to be perfect, something's usually off. Faith was busy checking off her list, and Kenny was checking for a wife who wouldn't dig too deep into his past. Neither seemed to notice the cracks forming beneath their fairy tale. But hey, they got the ring. Kenny proposed in Central Park. Faith said yes. And the Instagram announcement was a full production, professional photos, heartfelt captions, hashtags about God's timing. To the outside world, it looked like a dream. But behind the scenes, the show was just beginning. Their wedding went down in March 2020, right before the world shut down. 300 guests, Devin Franklin officiating. Stevia Wonder on the guest list. MC Light in the building. The vibes were immaculate. But barely a year into marriage, the cracks started to widen. Faith dropped a relationship advice book, "Sis, don't settle," just 18 months after getting married. Now how you giving marriage advice when you're still on the honeymoon high? Even worse, the biggest endorsement for her book came from Devin Franklin, whose own marriage to Megan Good fell apart right after. The blueprint Faith and Kenny had followed, it was crumbling. Then came the quiet exit from divorce court. No big farewell, no emotional send-off, just gone, replaced by Star Jones. Faith went from judging other people's messy relationships to being a walking headline herself. At the same time, Devin and Megan's split made Faith and Kenny's entire relationship marketing plan look shaky. And fans started noticing, were they selling as a real love story or just a brand? Meanwhile, Wendy Williams was throwing her famous side eyes, hinting at secrets nobody wanted to say out loud. And let's not forget, a Chant Moore never denied those rumors about Kenny. She just stepped around them. That silence spoke volumes. Faith, bless her, acted like none of it existed. But when you marry someone surrounded by questions, people will question you too. Was Faith ignoring red flags? Was this real love or just the right man at the right time? Because when you're unemployed, over 40, feeling pressure, and the guy checks 49 out of 50 boxes, it's easy to miss the fine print. And people were side-eyeing that relationship book too. especially since it felt like she was pushing it harder than her actual marriage. By August 2022, they tried to shift the narrative, announcing they were expecting their first child together. Faith was 44, Kenny was 52. The public congratulated them, but quietly, many wondered, was this a happy next step, or a strategic move to keep the fairy tale alive? Especially since it came right after Faith's exit from divorce court, her book being side-eyed, and their mentor couple's divorce. The timing was ... interesting. And while bringing a child into the world is beautiful, in context, it felt like another chapter in the PR playbook. Today, Kenny's still dropping music. Faith snagged a hosting gig on Killer Relationship over on Oxygen. They're still around, but the sparkle, that polished perfect couple glow, has definitely faded. Both Kenny and Faith have a net worth around $2 million each. Solid, but not exactly the empire their branding suggested. When people look back, Kenny will be remembered for that silky voice, sharp suits, and the grown and sexy R&B hits. But behind the ballads, there's a man who spent decades dodging rumors and rebuilding his image. Faith will be remembered as the Sharptown TV judge who preached about not settling, but maybe settled for a love story that looked better on paper than it felt in real life. Together, they built a brand, a partnership, a polished fairy tale, but one that always felt a little staged. And that's why people can't stop watching. Because Kenny and Faith aren't just a couple. They're a case study of what happens when love meets pressure, when image becomes identity, and when the audience starts asking if the story they're being sold is the whole truth. Whether they last or fade like the mentors they once admired, one thing's clear. This relationship won't just be remembered for what it was. It'll be remembered for how hard it tried to be perfect.